Welcome to JACC This Week. I'm Harlan Krumholtz, Editor-in-Chief of JACC, and I'm here to talk to you about the December 2nd, 2025 issue. This is one of those spotlight issues, and the anchor article in this issue is the Global, Regional, and National Burden of Cardiovascular Disease and Risk Factors in 204 countries and territories, 1990 to 2023. This is an effort led by Greg Roth at the University of Washington and at IHME. What's IHME? It's the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, a group run by Chris Murray. This group brings together statistics from all over the world to provide a perspective about where we are and where we're going. They develop timely, relevant, and scientifically valid evidence that illuminates the state of health, everywhere. You may have seen their work in leading journals. We're pleased to have this partnership with them so that we can, from time to time, provide a global perspective on cardiovascular health. They have an initiative called Global Burden of Disease, and the Global Burden of Disease 2023 study is a multinational collaborative study that quantifies the burden due to 375 diseases, including CVD burden, and identifies drivers of change. In this report, they are providing estimates of global, national, and subnational CVD burden, including 18 subdiseases and 12 associated modifiable risk factors. They analyzed the change in CVD burden from 1990 to 2023 and identified drivers of change, including population growth, aging, and risk factor exposure. Why should people be interested in this? Well, I will tell you at JACC, our mission is to advance global cardiovascular health. That's what we care about deeply. We're publishing papers so that we can strengthen the research community, strengthen the clinical community, strengthen the patient community, involve policymakers, and ensure that we're making progress towards our ultimate goal, which is to eliminate cardiovascular disease. To get there, we need measures to understand where are we? Where are the areas that we should be targeting? Where are we making progress? Where aren't we making progress? That's what a report like this is about. It's also to put cardiovascular disease in perspective vis-a-vis other causes of death and disability. It's frustrating sometimes to hear cardiovascular disease be subordinated as if it's not the most important cause of death and disability in the world. It is, and it means we have work to do. In this report, we found that, again, cardiovascular disease was a leading cause of disability-adjusted life years and deaths. Not everyone would be familiar with what disability-adjusted life years are. They are a measure of the total burden of disease. It's calculated as the sum of the years lost due to premature death and the years lived with disability. Sometimes I hear people say, well, you've got to die of something, and cardiovascular disease is mostly a disease of the elderly. Well, it is true that cardiovascular disease risk rises with age and that many older people have cardiovascular disease. Many older people die of cardiovascular disease. But when you put it in context of disability-adjusted life years, it really puts in prime focus premature death and disabilities associated with the condition such that it imposes a burden. That's why we like to use metrics like years of life lost, because it really puts into bright relief the burden of a particular condition like cardiovascular disease. As of 2023, there were 437 million cardiovascular disease disability-associated life years globally, a 1.4-fold increase from the number in 1990. What were the leading cardiovascular causes of these disability-adjusted life years in 2023? Well, ischemic heart disease, intracerebral hemorrhage, ischemic stroke, and hypertensive heart disease. Those were the leading causes. Another insight from the report was that age-standardized cardiovascular disability-adjusted life year rates were highest in low and low to middle-income countries, these lower middle-income sociodemographic index settings. And they were lowest in high sociodemographic index settings, but they were high everywhere, let's just say that. But they were highest in the countries that had low and low to middle sociodemographics. The number of cardiovascular deaths increased globally from about 13 million in 1990 to 19 million in 2023. The number of prevalent cases, people living with cardiovascular disease, more than doubled since 1990. Are you ready for this number? 311 million prevalent cases in 1990, now 626 million in 2023 globally. Here's another striking finding from the report. How much of this is preventable? I'm going to pause a second. How much of this is preventable? This is really the key stat to me. A total of 80% of cardiovascular burden is attributable to modifiable risk factors. That's $347 million in 2023. So now I got another question for you. Of those modifiable risk factors, which ones are most responsible for the CVD burden? I'll pause for another second. Which ones are most important? Well, you might have gotten the first one right, high systolic blood pressure. That's number one. But there are more. Dietary risk, high LDL, and air pollution. These are the modifiable risk factors responsible for most attributable CVD burden in 2023. Okay, here's another question. Which modifiable risk factors have increased the most since 1990, are growing and emerging as some of the most important ones for the future? This one might be obvious to you. Increases in body mass index, increases in fasting blood glucose, plasma glucose, and increases in low physical activity are all leading to higher burden. And I think all those are interconnected. I mean, more screen time, people more sedentary, obesity rates rising, and diabetes rates rising. Where have we had success? Well, tobacco usage. Reductions in tobacco usage have mitigated some of the increases on the other side of things like obesity. And then another thing this report does is really put into perspective that some of the global burden, a lot of the global burden, in addition, what's that's not explained by the modifiable risk factors, is population growth and population aging. Those are also major factors, and you have to take them into account. Look, that's good news. I mean, population growth, fine. Aging is because we're more successful. People are living longer, but it is adding to the total global burden of cardiovascular disease. This is an amazing article. It's clear, it's sophisticated. It covers the wide range of cardiovascular disease. It has a global perspective. You should take a look at the figures. They're compelling. Some of the maps really are striking. There's a 16-fold difference between the countries with the lowest and the highest cardiovascular disease DALY rates. They show very well the contributions of metabolic risk, behavioral risk, environmental and occupational risks. Just to summarize, here are some of their take-homes. Cardiovascular disease was a leading cause of disease burden worldwide in 2023. Increasing metabolic risk is driving up the burden. Low, middle, and middle SDI regions had the greatest age-standardized rates of DALYs due to cardiovascular disease, and most cardiovascular burden is preventable by reducing modifiable risk factors. Again, 80% of the cardiovascular disease disability adjusted life years are attributable to modifiable risk factors. This thing's really a tour de force. So what did we do? Well, we actually built an entire issue around it. We have a portfolio of commentaries from some of the leading people from around the world with an international lens, with a global burden of disease methods perspective, with forward-looking strategies, and with just various viewpoints that peel off different aspects of this and really talk about how we're going to make progress. Why are we in this rut? And what's it going to take for us to really leverage the fact that cardiovascular disease is, in the end, highly preventable. The point of these spotlight issues is to take an anchor article, a real classic contribution with a lot of substance, and contextualize it, allow people to internalize the key messages, understand it, see it from different directions, and to engage leading experts to stimulate us to think differently. My editor's page was titled The Global Burden of Disease, Not Just a Mirror, but a Compass. This was aligned with a talk I gave at the UN. We actually presented this at the UN special session in October 2025. We had a packed room and vibrant conversation about how we were going to make progress. Greg Roth gave a terrific presentation of the piece, and Valentine Fuster and I gave commentary. Here's one of the lines from my editorial. The global burden of disease is sometimes viewed as a mirror, a detailed reflection of where we are, but its real power is as a compass, pointing us to where we must act. A mirror describes, a compass directs. I also made another point in this editor's page. I said in global health and cardiology, we're often drawn to the ceiling. How can we extend the number of years that people live? And what new drugs or devices might transform care? But GBD reminds us that the greatest opportunity is not at the ceiling, but at the floor. Raising the floor means ensuring that every country, every health system, and every community can deliver a minimum level of proven, life-saving cardiovascular prevention and treatment. Today, that floor is too low. I went on to say, raising the floor means defining and meeting a global minimum standard of care so no one dies for lack of what we already know what to do. I hope you enjoy this issue, both the anchor article, all the terrific commentaries, and you get a chance to reflect on what you can do to help us truly advance global cardiovascular health. Beyond our day-to-day, we all ought to be thinking, what would it take for us to truly make this disease go away? You've been listening to JACC This Week. I'm Harlan Krumholtz, Editor-in-Chief of JACC. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you enjoy the issue. As always, stay curious.